tell that rocket man to be quiet. It's China Spoilers. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of China Spoilers, a weekly podcast about making movies and living in China. I am your host Emily, and with me as always is Peter. And we're coming to you live to tape from lovely whoopwu studios in Luzhou, Sichuan, China. This week our main topic is going to be archiving and storing a library of videos and photos and more. Very exciting.
Super exciting.
But we're going to kick things off with a check-in. How's your uncle? So, how's your uncle, Peter?
Pretty good. We've got beautiful weather.
Got beautiful... Yeah, Luzhou in the fall alternates between still the best summer you ever lived through with beautiful blue skies and just the other days are terrible rain. But you live for those blue sky days, and we've had a nice weekend of 2 blue sky days.
Yeah, I would say that this is maybe our mid-autumn holiday week of pure spring bliss. What?
Yeah, it's been pretty. I mean, it's been if you're an afternoon person, that perfect. It's a little rainy in the morning, and then the afternoon and evening are gorgeous. So
This is what I imagined when people said they called Kunming the spring city.
Oh yeah.
When people said that it's always beautiful, I anticipated this week, and that's why I felt we moved there for a year.
Yeah.
It was a lie.
Yeah, well, because also Spring City, they think is like 50 degrees Fahrenheit is like nice spring temperature, and we think 70 degrees, which it's been here all week, is the ideal temperature. So there's a little disagreement between us and general common Chinese knowledge.
As much as you don't want to think that California exists, this is that 72 degrees, beautiful, perfect California.
Booksmart we were watching last night, which is also, they go to school in LA. And so I'm from New York, and I do not believe that California exists. And it makes me think this is why it doesn't exist, is all the schools are like outdoors, but it's also nice out all the time. And they're like, that the cafeteria is outside.
The playground is just, it keeps going to the cafeteria and becomes
designed
classroom.
by people who have never been a place before, where it rains all the time and it snows in the winter.
It does up north of California. We get Seattle.
Which also doesn't exist. Seattle, California. But I wanted to tell you, this video game I've been playing, I just downloaded this video game, Don't Starve. Which I think came out a couple years ago.
Is this the one where you've got the little guy with the hair that...
Yeah, which is kind of like the Charles Adams artwork, which is what attracted... I like a game that is like cartoony and cool looking. If you can hear that in the background, all morning this has not been happening, and just as we were setting up to film, our neighbors are renovating, and so this drill noise just started. I mean, it was going on all week, but Sunday we were hoping there would be
usually
a rest for these guys.
It tends to be during your regular work day, between like 9 to 6 or whatever, which fair enough. Yeah. Everyone should be at work or school, but...
And basically, there's no situation in China where you're not going to have to go through your neighbors renovating the apartment. So
and
you're going to have to deal with that drill noise for a week or two at some point.
In that sense, we're kind of lucky that it usually happens on the work day.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly loud, so it's very upsetting. But that's when it happens.
Yeah.
We've had.
So if you hear that,
we're used to it. We won't even notice it.
Yeah. Well, I will drive you nuts. But that's what that is our neighbors are renovating their apartment. Hope it looks nice. But anyway, so this video game. I played video games as a kid. We had a little NES Nintendo. And I liked, the basic ones. Zelda, Mario, Tetris. Anything puzzle game. And then Final Fantasy. I love Final Fantasy 1 through 7, I would say, before... I mean, then after that, the 10 is a great game. Or what's the one...
I've lost total count.
I mean,
even know what
the later ones are awesome games, but
Yeah.
I can't play them on my little Linux laptop with an emulator, so I kind of put them... We don't have a console, so I put them in a different category. But I'm always looking for, like, a good game that has, like... Puzzle solving is not too dependent on hand-eye coordination, because I don't have it. But it's funny to, like, dive back into this world as an adult and realize, like, oh, all these games now have, like, genre names. When I was a kid, I didn't feel like there was genre so much. Or, like, I downloaded Owlboy, which I ended up not liking, but you were like, it looks like a Metroidvania game, which that's like a genre of video game.
Some kind of side scroll, like, and I guess, I mean, I understand
but
retro.
You specifically mentioned Castlevania.
Yeah, it had even like the same like rock formations and
and it's, I mean, it was designed to be this retro throwback, but I didn't like Metroidvania style games when they first came out, and I don't like them now, so I put it down. But then, like, the genre I really do like, I like the JRPGs. Japan. RPGs. Role-playing games. And I like adventure games, I think they're called, which are like those LucasArts puzzle games where you have to, like, find the spatula to jimmy open the door and then get the horse to fall asleep so you can steal his false teeth kind of thing. Which it turns out, like, after doing some research, there's really only the one company, LucasArts, and then Double Fine later, is the one, Tim Schafer. There's like one guy who makes games I really, really like, and he doesn't make them fast enough. And if you know differently, tell me, because I'm dying for games like that. If you know a Dave the Tentacle-like game,
that's a comment we could use.
Tell it in the comments. So this has turned into a naked plea for what are video games I would like. But I'm playing Don't Starve, which is a survival game, open sandbox survival game, which is another category. And the whole aim of the game is not to starve to death. It's like a grim game.
Just like life.
Just like life, yeah. And so you have to, like, find food, mine rocks, and collect wood and different materials so you can build better and better stuff, so your survival becomes a little more easier. And then you have to combat animals, and freakier animals keep coming after you. Which last night I was playing before bed and I got killed by a bat, which I was like in a total, like, it was a tense game. I was killed by a bat, and then I went to sleep and had dreams about getting killed by bats. It was not a good game to play before bed.
And we don't have killer bats here, but we do have bats in town.
We do have bats, but they don't come in our house so far. And they don't attack people.
They do fly in giant swarms over the city, though.
Yeah, it's weird. Bats. But yeah, so I was like,
good night's sleep tonight.
Yeah, I've been playing that video game, but it is also then, like, there's a mode you can play, and I'm playing it on super easy mode because I'm not trying to die every 5 seconds. But it still is like you can play it in a mode where you avoid all the animals and you collect berries and blah blah blah, and it's very calm. But then to get the better resources, you have to fight the animals, and that gets really tense. And so it turns out that's a bad idea to play it right before bed.
You made me nervous just watching you fight the frogs that were...
Oh yeah.
Those are just frogs.
Yeah. And I kind of, when I stopped playing for the night, you know, like when you're playing a video game and you could just play forever and ever, I get to a point with the game where I'm like, I don't want to play this anymore. It has a high frustration level. And so I do kind of, I've been playing for a couple weeks and I'm like, I don't know if I like this game or not. But it has good artwork. Good artwork goes a long way with me.
Yeah.
The other thing is our 8th anniversary in China is coming up, which I don't know if you realize. I was just hanging up the laundry, It will be the 8th anniversary of our brown towels, too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, those are old towels.
No, I did not know.
Yeah, because we bought those. That was like our second night in China when we were like, Sarah, we have no stuff. Can you take us someplace to get stuff?
Do you remember them when our blue towels appeared?
I don't remember. I don't have them dated. I think, though, we still bought those our first year, so they might be turning 8 as well.
Well, interesting that they've held up so well. They look almost like the same towel.
I wonder if that's because we do not have a dryer.
Uh-huh.
Dryers, I do think, are supposed to shorten the life of your linens and clothing. Because, like, how long is a towel supposed to last?
I feel like some people have towels like their whole lifetime.
Yeah, but what are those people right?
In the head?
I mean, like, how often are you supposed to buy towels?
In the comments.
They do all have a kind of musty smell that's hard to shake.
I just assume that's Luzhou, though.
Yeah, I mean, Luzhou has a musty smell that's hard to shake. And they're not, like, super soft anymore, but I don't think they were really super soft to begin with.
No. Well, they weren't expensive towels.
They were not expensive towels. We bought them at the supermarket.
Well, there you go. Seabest.
Yeah, at the same time as our little red stool.
You can go all the way back to our blog in the first, like, couple of...
Oh, yeah, you can see our
photos of towels.
We had no Chinese, so we couldn't, like, go out in the world and do anything. So we, like, went to class, and then we went to this one supermarket we knew and, like, bought stuff for the apartment. And then we're like, we have to take pictures. So our first 2 months of our blog is just, like...
Taking pictures of housewares.
Yeah. We were so excited. I remember when you moved the microwave in, we had all that counter space. It's like, whoa, this is a completely different kitchen.
Because we're at the grocery store, and we were, like, with our helper, our teacher helper was trying to show us the things that we need to buy, but they weren't the things that we were expecting. Like, we couldn't figure out trash bags.
And she couldn't figure out what we were talking about either.
They're essentially, everyone has little tiny trash bags. You put in the little tiny waste baskets, and you just take them out to the trash. And we're, like, looking for, like, where are your hefties?
Yeah.
And we're trying to tell her, like, no. She's like, do you sleep in them? I don't know what you're talking about. Like, these are...
And this was our second night in China, so we were super jet lagged.
Yeah.
We were super culture shocked. And yeah, we were just like...
Nothing seemed to make sense.
I think we need stuff, but I don't know what stuff we need.
We filled up a shopping cart full of things, and the towels were probably in them, along with a red stool and some, like, eventually we found these trash bags and maybe a bunch of chopsticks or something.
Yeah.
Some salt. No, it took us months to find salt.
No, we for a while thought that there was no salt in China. That was one of the things. We were like, I guess they just don't use salt.
Meanwhile, we live only like an hour or two away from the salt capital of the planet or something.
Yeah. And then she, like, came shopping with us and was like, it was after she took us to dinner and we were like, we need stuff. Can you show us where the store is? She's like, oh yeah, I'll take you shopping. So there was, like, a time pressure of, like, it's the end of her day. She wants to go home and she's, like, watching us kind of have a mental breakdown about living in a new place and not understanding it. And I remember they didn't have, like, good looking towels. Like, I don't like that we have brown towels. They're ugly towels. And I just remember they were the plainest looking towels, or something made them better looking than the rest of them.
Well, a lot of, like...
And she was just standing there like, what towels do you want?
She's just like, take these ones with, like, elephants on them.
Yeah.
We're like, no, but they're pink, and there's, like, little kids. They're for kids. Why are they so small?
Yeah.
They're tiny little...
Yeah. She's like, well, how about this? How about stop helping? I need a second to collect my thoughts. But we can't get home without you, so we can't...
Yeah, we don't even know where we are.
We can't tell you to say like, thank you for showing us you can go home now. We do need you to stay while we're making these crazy decisions.
We don't even know how to get to the cash register.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't think we had any cash on us even.
Yeah.
She might have paid for it, actually.
I think she did. And then the next day, she told us to meet her out front of the school, where she's going to take us for dinner all day long and show us all the sights and the new school out in the countryside.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And meanwhile, the entire time we were panicking because the day after we had to start lessons and we had no lessons plans.
And no one had told us like anything about how to do that job.
We didn't even know where on the face of the planet we were.
They had given us, so we got that job from a friend of a friend, and the friend of a friend was here. His stated goal was to write a screenplay and then just do this job. So like he was definitely not committed to teaching. So I don't know what his classes were like. But so she gave us one of his PowerPoints that he used to like deliver his class, and it was just like 6 pictures of buses or something. Yeah. And I was like, but the class is 40 minutes. What did you do?
We're just gonna show buses and say bus over and over again.
So it was like that was our only guide as to what was supposed to happen in the class, and we were freaking out. And it was, man, that was a long time ago.
8 years.
8 years ago.
As of Tuesday.
As of Tuesday, it's exciting.
By the time you're watching this at home, we'll be eating barbecue at the newest, hippest barbecue place that we found.
Yeah, which segues us into out and about. Here's where we went out this week. So we found a new barbecue place by the amusement park that's not far from our house.
Overlooking the 𝗼𝗂.
Yeah, the 𝗼𝗂 River, which is a tributary of the 𝗖𝗵cie.
Yeah, it flows into, right?
That's a tributary, right?
That flows in to the 𝗖𝗵cie on the other side of our peninsula that we live on.
Yeah, and so around the amusement park has been there for
3, 4.
4. I think like 4 or 5 years, because I feel like it was there before we left for Lijiang.
It was.
But I feel like it was only this past year where we've actually seen people go to it.
And
I mean, that area has been slowly building up around it, but it's not a popular amusement park.
Like, yeah, I mean, we go there on the weekends, and it's not like it's
not super busy.
It's funny because there's fake Transformers and Mickey Mouse and Marvel characters
and confusion of ripped off intellectual property.
And it's called Spirits Land because we're the alcoholic city.
Yeah.
And then you would expect it's all gilded up to look like there'd be like a billion people there on the weekend.
Yeah.
But it kind of
looks
like
an old
capacity,
but
yeah, it looks like some kind of ghost town with like a little boy jumping in and out of like fountains and stuff. And
the water park part seemed busy this summer.
Yeah, that's usually because they have like live shows and stuff too.
Yeah.
We can hear them rocking out.
Yeah, but so there's like a lot of restaurants around the outside of it because it's not there's like small restaurants inside of it, but it's not a Disneyland kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's more like a smaller.
It's a Spirits Land kind of thing.
Smaller than Six Flags kind of thing. So like,
definitely.
If you wanted to go eat, you'd probably leave the park.
Yeah.
And so there are all these restaurants around it, which I feel like the restaurants
do more business than the
more and more
amusement park.
Yeah. But there's one that we've been driving by that had a nice outdoor area we could see from cabs as we go by. That overlooked the river, and we finally went, and we went twice.
It was better than we thought it would be. We were just going for aesthetic purposes, but it turned out it's some of the best barbecue we've had in town.
Yeah,
well, a little pricier for it, but
barbecue culture is really huge in our city. Which I was gonna say, did we talk about this on our podcast? But I think we talked about this with John Scoville. That like the thing to do, school kids stop for barbecue on the way home, or like after you've been out drinking, you go and have barbecue, and it can be anything from like a literal grill and some table and chairs just set up on the street to an actual restaurant situation, and
it wasn't.
We've been to all kinds.
It was mostly a street thing when we first got here.
Yeah.
I don't know what the culture was per se, but when we had our first balcony, decided that we wanted a barbecue, and everyone thought it was crazy, and we finally found one barbecue in town, and we had to like track down charcoal at all the restaurants and stuff and buy them in weird little bags.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, just one day, possibly because the camping culture all of a sudden boomed while we were here over the 8 years.
Yeah.
It became places like Chengdu are good stopping points for a lot of visitors. before they go off into the mountains, so they buy some gear.
Yeah.
And then I think it just leaked over into our town, and now it becomes people are buying like little pup tents to go sit in the park and for the afternoon and bring barbecues.
Like Labor Day, 2 years ago, our friend organized a party. He brought a grill. He prepared like spicy chicken wings and stuff, and good stuff.
Which 8 years ago we were like, how do you guys barbecue? And they're like, that guy over there.
Yeah, it was a thing you went to. It's not a thing you did at your own home or under your own power.
Which we even like, we didn't know what to call it. We were like, on fire, and they're like, BBQ.
Yeah.
We're like, BBQ? How fun!
Yeah, and it's different. It's not the same as like. There's a grill involved, but it's not hamburgers and hot dogs. Chicken wings crossover.
True.
And
again, we're Szechuan, so everything is spiced unless you specifically say.
They just like put anything on a stick and grill it. Anything meaning vegetables and little meat, shish kebabs.
The weirder it gets is the more expensive it gets.
Yeah.
I would say.
I guess specialty stuff would be.
Yeah.
More.
So it isn't like necessarily like you're not gonna like wander into liver or brains unless you know it because you're gonna pay for it.
Well, but liver and brains are cheap.
Well. But they don't put it on barbecue. It's mostly like a piece of broccoli or something.
We don't choose that at barbecue. It's there though.
Yeah, but they're on special plates.
You
buy like a brain.
Okay. Well, brain, because you can't put a brain on a stick. You can't put a brain on a stick. But I've seen like livers on sticks or like chicken hearts on sticks.
Yeah, they have it, but isn't it a more pricey dish that goes off to the side like in special baskets or?
I don't know about that.
We never looked at the price, I guess.
Yeah. We just don't. We bypass that stuff. But this place was good. They had like. Why it's more expensive is they have the actual restaurant and it's a nice place and there's a bathroom and there's a nice overlook, but also the quality of the meats and vegetables is better. You can also get, fish barbecue is a big specialty of the area, and that you can get from small to large places. They all do that, and it just is like a fish and tofu and greens all thrown on a platter.
It's interesting too because it is a scaled thing of like this restaurant we're talking about right now is a very fancy upscale restaurant. It's in a nice part of town. It's a nice sit-down place with a beautiful view, and you get a beautiful dish and everything. But we get the same dish if we go out to the countryside where a guy smacks a fish onto the sidewalk till it's dead and then makes it up. And it's just a sidewalk food, but it is essentially the same dish. Mm-hmm. It's just like I wonder, like, it's one of those like salt of the earth people's dishes kind of like things of like everyone eats this, everyone has beans, everyone has rice. Yeah. It's just a matter of like, did you get the good rice?
Yeah, and how indoors is your kitchen?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was always fun. So we had a place out in the semi-countryside in Tai'an. Mm-hmm. We had a barbecue place we'd go to, and you'd just see them. They had like a bucket of fish, live fish, and then when you chose a fish, they really would just whack it against the curb and then scale it right there. And there was a cat who hung out like, is there some for me?
And the kids.
And the kids, like to watch it.
They'd all like gather around and be like, ah! Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. So that barbecue was good. And, yesterday, again, we had that beautiful blue sky day. And on a blue sky day in Luzhou, if you don't go outside, you're a fool. Because they don't come often enough.
And it's not just us. The entire city comes out.
Everybody goes out. And so we went out to the White Tower, which is a very Chinese-y, traditional-looking monument that we've inquired several times about, like, the significance and the history. And the most information we really got is it's the White Tower.
It's a tower.
Yeah.
And it is white.
Yeah. And they used to have a whole bunch of street vendors and food stalls, and like they would set up little children's activities, and the crowd would be so bustling and super fun. And now the police are cleaning up the city, and so all that's gone, which is kind of a bummer, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it looks nice. It's all maintenanced, and there's shrubbery,
it looks beautiful.
It's clean and beautiful. But there's nobody in it other than a passage to walk to the police.
Yeah, because there's
art gallery.
There's a big square, and then there's stores around the side, but those stores, they're like baby clothes stores. It's not. It's not a replacement for what was lost. But we went there with the intention of filming a little bit around the tower and getting like some kind of crowd shots. But because there's nothing there anymore, and it's all in direct sun, no one was hanging out in the square. And the White Tower is under construction, so you can't actually get close enough to it to get the shot that we wanted. So that was like...
Once again, when we first got here, tower was fine. You could walk right up almost into it. Yeah. And then it was under construction for like 4 years.
Yeah. And they repainted it for a while.
And it was fine.
Yeah.
And now it's back under construction. I don't think anything happened.
Yeah.
They're not repainting a different color. It's not becoming the orange tower.
Is it a boondoggle? is this our big dig? Boston people, you know what I'm talking about.
Boston people.
But yeah, so we went with the intention of filming this and then, have to be ready for plans to change. We instead got noodles at the one noodle place that survived the cleanse. That's like way in the back corner.
Which I think I'm pretty sure it's just for people that like work in the stores that are around the shopping center.
Oh, that makes sense, yeah.
Because it's not a place where people weren't lining up like coming from around town or anything. Yeah. It literally is like a hole on the side of a building.
Yeah.
With a couple of tables.
But it was good. It was really good.
Yeah, we ended up eating there a bunch of times throughout the years. And
fresh noodles. Yeah. A fun atmosphere. We like the street side or the sidewalk seating. We like eating in alleys. Yeah. And then on the way out of the square, we found they had. So there in this square, there's also a fountain that we've never, ever, ever, ever seen turned on. A friend told us that maybe it's on like every other Saturday or something to conserve water, but we've never, ever seen it turned on.
Which is pretty standard for a lot of public areas and private. Like, there's beautiful fountains all over the city, and I think all over cities in general in China. Yeah. But they're never turned on.
Yeah, in our last apartment complex before this one, there was a huge water feature and stairs, and like it must have been really impressive if they ever had turned it on, but they didn't. And so now they like maintained it after it rained and filled up with rainwater. They cleaned it and emptied it, and I think it looks impressive initially, and then is a pain. Maybe they're expensive to keep up, and
it must
waste
be really
a lot
expensive.
of water. And I don't know. So, yeah.
Because it isn't. Yeah, it's elaborate like Bellagio fountains that are like shooting water and shoots of pathways that go down areas and into. Yeah, it's way over. It's like everything is done Vegas size as much as possible.
But then like there's no money to. Actually keep it going.
Or
they don't want to spend money.
Yeah, that's I think it. Like they're just like, this is ridiculous. I'm not turning the lights on today.
Yeah, it's not so much like dereliction as like, no, we enticed you with this water feature, and now we're not turning it on.
Everyone moved in. I'm not having.
Who am I selling to now? Yeah. You already live.
Yeah, you're home from work at 6 o'clock.
But anyway, so. Kind of on top of where this fountain is that doesn't turn on, they had a public photo exhibit. And so we looked close, and they're like, I thought they were nice photos. They were well composed, and
we might even know the photographer for all we know.
But then we realized that the theme of the photography exhibition was, "Aren't the police great?" Which is kind of funny. And I do think since really. Last year, Chinese New Year, there's been like a big push to like improve the police's standing in the community. Yeah. Because now we also, in addition to like the home visits saying like, this is your police officer, give us a call if you ever need us or see crime. Our community police officer, there's a big poster in our lobby, and she's got a picture, like glamour shot, and like, it's just funny.
Well, and then this exhibit is not only as like a big public thing, like it isn't just kind of posted up on bulletin boards like it was like some kind of like news flash. These are like artsy photos, and well, some of them are like some nice shots of teams marching or something in squares, but like some of them are like the young guys like practicing all their different militarized moves. Like so, there's like blur action shots with their teeth and like you know,
super.
Like they look like cover
action movie.
Yeah, magazine movie like kind of like
like a Time magazine spread on war torn.
Yeah, and whatever kind of like.
I mean, it was not depicting war, but it was that flavor of photojournalism of like gritty and real and action.
They're in training like with the special like here's the money that we spend on shields and batons, and so like they're all like posed with like action blurs around them and streams of light.
Soft culture show of force.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, I would say, like, if I was a little boy walking past it, I'd look at that and go like, I want to do that when I grow up.
Oh yeah. A lot of my kids say in that lesson they say they would like to be police.
Yeah, it looks freaking cool.
Yeah.
But it's also that is your art.
Right.
That was created this week for the senator.
Yeah, that's
of
the
city.
Public art is yay police.
Yeah, great.
And then another, not us going out, but other people going out. So our apartment is between two pretty big KTV houses. Karaoke. They're not even bars. They're like huge.
They look like small coliseums. Like one literally is shaped like a coliseum.
And they're like a hotel. Like they're just private rooms. If you've never done karaoke in Asia, it's not like you're in front of the bar and you sing. You get a private room with your friend and you order drinks and food and like it's a whole huge thing. So we have two of those establishments on either side of our apartment. And last Sunday night, the end of the holiday, 1:30 in the morning, I'm in bed and I just hear this screaming, bloody murder outside. And it's I don't know if people outside of New York know the is her name Kitty Genovese or Kitty Genovese? Depends how Italian she was. But anyway, it's a story that kind of kicked off the psychological study of the bystander effect, which is that if someone is in trouble, bystanders will all assume somebody else is going to step in to help, so they do not themselves step in to help. So with that in mind, I was like, okay, I'm assuming someone else is going to step in to help, but no, bystander effect. So I look out the window and I see from the tenor of the screaming, it sounded like someone was maybe laying bloody in the road or like getting shoved in a trunk or blah, blah, blah. And it's just like a group of young people on a corner. There's no physical, I'm on the 28th floor, but I can see there's no pushing, there's no physical altercation, no one is dead, no one is...
Got no street skirmish.
Yeah, and in fact, the guys with her are, backing off and like giving her space. So I'm like, okay, I guess she's okay, but it still was like, it's disturbing. And so well,
and we sort of live, our neighborhood is a big, with a medium, there's like 6 lanes of road in between a giant canyon of 30-story buildings.
Yeah.
So, and they're not all like New York tightly knit. There's a little bit of flow area in between each building. Yeah. So it all acts as this giant canyon of echo when there's no cars or anybody out at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Her screams were like filling the neighborhood. And then I came in here to talk it over with you because I was upset. Not upset, but like shaken a little bit. Like she's just, can you hear her screaming? Because it went on for a long time. But no one looks like they're really in trouble. I think she's maybe, and then you had the observation.
Well, there also, just really quickly, is that does tend to be a tendency with that effect of like, a lot of, if there's an accident in the street, a lot of people gather around and they all kind of like just kind of watch.
Yeah, that's true.
There is
true.
like
people gather.
There's a gather that without like, what am I going to do? I'm not a doctor. I don't know. Maybe somebody might call, but this is the middle of the night, so there's that. Like, we're surrounded by thousands and thousands of people in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
Am I the only one that hears this?
Right.
So
right.
this happened to me like when we first moved to this neighborhood.
Because Peter's tends to stay up later.
Yeah. So like the first and the second or third time that I hear screaming bloody murder in the middle of the night, it's absolutely upsetting. Until I realized that, like, oh, we live next to a bunch of KTV houses. Oh, everyone's just getting out of KTV, and somebody's drunk, and somebody's broken up with somebody.
Yeah, or
and
someone's mad at someone.
Yeah, and it doesn't, I've never seen it, like, it's never like a bunch of dudes that are getting into a fist fight and breaking bottles or anything like that. It's usually some guy's broken up with his girlfriend or something like that, and she's had enough of it, and she's telling the entire neighborhood.
Yeah. And then, like, it feels like super misogynist to be like, oh yeah, that's a thing, Chinese girls do just scream when they're drunk. But it is also true, it's kind of a thing for Chinese young women to get super drunk and then be upset and then just start screaming.
And I imagine at most places.
Yeah.
It is screaming. Young teenagers are.
Yeah. Because I mean, there's male hooting and like there's the loudness of being drunk late at night and you're on your way home. But because then it happened again last night and I was like, I don't know what that
I got this.
But it was like, because that's the first time it woke me up, and she just was like screaming for like 10 minutes.
I think early on too, again, we live on a busy street, it had happened that there was a car crash. And so that was the only time I ever heard like a big commotion outside.
Yeah, but we also heard the car crash.
Yeah, I think you usually hear, there's something else happens before people start screaming. Then you know it's a danger.
Right.
When it's all of a sudden just a bunch of high-pitched screaming, now we know, like, oh, KTV's been let out.
Yeah.
But
and maybe if we called the police, they'd be like, do you see anyone injured? It's just KTV.
Right.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Because there's nobody else, there's no lights going on in anybody's apartment or anything like that. Yeah. So that's another.
I guess, and that's a good point. I didn't put it together. When there has been actual injury or bad things are happening, crowds gather.
Oh, yeah.
And someone does call the police. So maybe, I wonder if bystander effect is cultural. Study that, psychologists.
Do it.
And because people do get involved here.
Yeah.
Whether sometimes they'll like join the fight, but they do get involved.
Also, there's again, it's a big country, and we live in a tiny town, and so anything that happens is something happening in the street that's like, are you going to go back to your restaurant, your noodle hut, and watch your boring TV? Like,
yeah.
Usually you're watching like some kind of old TV war drama, and if something happens in the street, ooh, now we got something to watch for like an hour.
Yeah. I mean, we don't.
Well, yeah.
When we see those crowds, we're like, let's go a different way.
I think that's probably a safe bet for wherever you're a foreigner. When you see a lot of people together, you get going. If there's a
crowd, don't hang out.
There's no reason for you to be there. This is not.
That's a situation that could become. You don't know how it's gonna go, and your presence could make something bad happen. But let's talk about a little bit of business.
Yes.
So, our channel this week had a big boost. We got 6 new subscribers.
Yeah, something about there.
Some are from the interview we did last week, and some are from a new strategy that we're pursuing. If you want to lay that out.
We've taken to making much shorter videos, which is something we've been like slowly inching towards. And because a part of the problem that we found was that people we were trying to make like a show, and that show would have like 3, 4, 8, 10 different things, interviews, different segments, different written pieces and everything. And we would find no one would watch past like the first 1.5-minute segment. And we've been fighting it for a long time. But we've now gotten to like, let's just like make 1.5-minute segments. So I guess what we did is tested out by taking all those old segments that were big, whole full episodes that were 9 minutes, and chop them all
cutting
into
them
1
down
minutes.
into each segment.
And those would get more views than the big, whole, full produced piece.
Yeah. And then I feel like another thing we added this week was the tight turnaround time of like, have an idea, do the idea now. Don't wait for another time, because when you wait, either you get disenchanted with the idea and don't do it, or you feel like this idea is not enough, let's build it up. Both of which we've done to different ideas. And so it kind of gives you I think it results in a different
There's an immediacy.
Different kind of idea when you're just like, I have this idea. All right, get the camera, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, I noticed like a lot of projects, not just like on YouTube, but like that's just the easiest one to see because I'm always on it. But like a lot of projects from artist friends and myself that you get into something and you're like, this is going to be the most precious thing that you've ever put together. And especially if you're going to try like on YouTube to make one precious thing every week. And so you end up like holding these things off. And even if it is just like you're just a vlogger and you're like, you know, I moved to a new apartment, or you know, I went to dinner, or we had a party at work or something like that, you end up sitting on, you know, 2 hours of information that you may have filmed. And you're like, I don't know how to put this together, and then you start to put it together because you're excited because you just brought it home, and you pick at it for a while, and you're like, oh, I could do better. Like, well, I'll get back to it next week. And then stuff like sits around, and then people eventually like 2 weeks later put stuff out, 4 weeks later, 2 months, a year later, and it has no ending, and they put on like a little tag of like, sorry, I couldn't think of an ending, like that. And we do the same thing too, of where we're putting all this work of like, we got to find the right words, we got to find the right image, we'll wait until we find, you know, the right scenario to film. Whereas in what we're trying to do now is just be like, that's an idea, let's just whatever we got to do to get that story out. Well,
I'm saying that's enough of an idea too, of like, to specifically talk about the one we posted last night, Come On Jason. We went out with the intention of filming this whole other thing at the White Tower, and then that didn't work out. And so we went to have tea at this tea house on the river, which, as a sidebar, was it used to be a different restaurant that we went to all the time. And then we just came back after a couple of years of not going, and now it's a tea house. And all of the street vendors along the street recognized us, and like other restaurateurs recognized us, and were like, hey, you're back, which is really funny. And then I thought it was funny to see like, oh, you're still street vending. Like, well, what else would they do?
Well, yeah, it's funny to think like, but these are like people that are, you know, 40s, 50s, 60s.
I guess it's true. It's a lot of older. I mean, 40's not old, but.
But yeah, that's where they live. Like, for us to like come back and we haven't been there in a year, but we've been going there for like 8 years, and we're like, oh, you're still here? Like, this is my house.
Right. Or like they sell that cold glutinous rice dessert. Like, that's what I do. It's not like I'm not going to start a restaurant empire. I make enough money doing this. I like making this. That's what I do.
Yeah, and it is like it's the river culture. It's this nice redone pathway where everyone goes down to spend their Saturdays or Sunday afternoons, or lunches or whatever. So these people that are working there, that are just have like bang stick and some flan, are probably, they do that for a while, they take a break and they go play mahjong. They go back out for dinner and sell a little bit more. A lot of times I think that's like somebody else that they live with makes it at home and then sends them out with it. Like,
sometimes I wonder if there's like one lady who makes it for the whole city,
everybody,
and they all go pick it up from her. But I have no information. But one of the vendors that walks along is an ear cleaner, and that's...
Well, there's tons of them.
Yeah.
But there's one in particular.
One type of vendor that walks along.
Well, but I mean the ear people, there's like... They bread and butter pass by each other.
Oh,
with
right.
Sword sticks going swang, swang, swang. And you're like, there's like 5 of you here, all going swang, swang.
But, and it's a thing, like, if you ever watch travel shows about going to China, they'll probably talk about doing that because it's a good visual, someone digging around in your ear. And I was curious, so I was like,
again,
I want
8
to try
years.
it. Yeah. And then, so of course we had our cameras with us, so Peter was filming it. And then sitting around after, joking around, Peter was like, what if we did a video and like we could hear your thoughts? And then we ha ha ha. Wait a second. What if we did do that video?
Yeah,
and I think that's the tight turnaround part of that considering it as an exercise, because we're not abandoning other ways of working.
Yeah.
But I think it's helping us to say, when we're joking around about among ourselves of like, no, that's an idea, let's pursue it.
Yeah, because it's that simple, it's that silly of just like, here's a joke. Why don't we figure out how do we tell that story? And that's why it works as a sketch of like the physical act of figuring out how do we turn that joke into a visual gag.
Yeah.
And put words to it, and then put music to it, and then produce visual presentation over it, and then put it on the internet.
Yeah.
Like now you made a whole production out of like one little joke that.
Yeah, and it's the difference between us sitting around and amusing each other and us realizing we can use that to maybe amuse other people. Because I think our goal with YouTube is to capture. We amuse each other all the time. We think we're fun, and so our goal is to kind of capture that usness that we get to experience every day and share that, because that's all we have is our point of view. And so this is kind of like getting more granular about like how do we make each other laugh?
Well, that we have our skills, our trade, our craft that we've worked on professionally has been about telling stories in all different kinds of mediums. So when we set upon we're going to go somewhere and try and figure out what kind of story we want to tell and how to tell it, the easiest thing is like, oh, well, it's great. Now we have YouTube these days.
Yeah.
Not just us, but like, the world and things like YouTube and the technology to put it all together, that what we realized what we didn't want to do was just do journalism of this is us in China.
Yeah.
So to figure out how to tell these little just jokes as exercises
and
for our bigger project when we do our series, like when we're trying to figure out how do we write scenes that are 5 minutes long with a bunch of people, like these are the practice pieces of putting them together. Like going like, hey, that joke that you just said, that one sentence was really funny. What if we put 4 other sentences with it? Yeah. And then put a camera over here.
Yeah, and I would say it short circuits the part of your brain that goes, but should you really bother? Because you don't take time to think of it. Like, so I'm not an artist, but this is how I've kind of been thinking of it in my head of like, gesture drawing just gets your eye and your hand moving to like what you're seeing and thinking about, and like gets that image on the paper. It's maybe not the most accurate, and it's maybe not the best work you've ever done, but it gets you doing that work, and it like starts to automate connections of like you don't have to think about elbows so much anymore.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
I would say it definitely is, because you can look at, if you're looking at a real master, somebody who really has either the experience or just the flat out raw talent, whatever, that they can do it when they're young. If you look at people's sketchbooks, most people, like, it is that rough. Like, it is like, an elbow is like this, and you're like, what are you doing there? I'm trying to figure out the elbow. I'm gonna have to, and you start to erase it here, and you have an elbow there, and you erase it there, and you can watch on somebody's work of where, if they're using pencil, it's probably eraser marks, or if they're using pen, like it's just you're really light sketching. And that arm is going down and down. Yeah. With a master, you can actually see that they take one line and gesture draw. Yeah. And you're like, oh my God, this is like, I can see the body of like a Rembrandt sculpture where like every muscle is defined with one line. Like, how did you get that one line over here also to show me how ribs are done?
Yeah, like, and I think it seems like as in any discipline, learning Chinese or any language or even Rubik's Cube, there's a difference between the moves I have to I know all the moves, but there are still some I have to step by step go through, and there are some that I'm just like I can automatically just do it because I don't. It's instinct. We've made instinct, and so I feel like this quick turnaround is kind of a more instinctual way of filmmaking and joke telling, and so maybe it's not going to result in our masterpiece, but it's going to help us pursue our masterpiece.
Yeah, it's a matter of honing your skills with those sketchbooks, being able to figure out, like, at some point you get enough where you don't make all those extra arm marks and you start getting, and then you can get faster to the actual project that you're doing beyond a sketch. If you can,
faster is the word, because if you have to take time to think of, like, okay, the arm, I need these components, then you're just going to spend a long time drawing an arm. Whereas if that's automatic, then you've got the arm and you can add the details that you want.
Right, because you know the vocabulary that you're using. You know what you're trying to define, and that's experience. Like, I mean, like, this is like I don't know how to play keyboards, but I can sound like I know, and I can talk to you while I'm doing it, and I can sound like I'm playing a solo as I speak, because I've done it enough times that I know that these chords go with these notes if I play them at a certain rhythm, and I can sing along with them. So it's honing your craft so that you can get to telling a story better, and I think that's one of the things I'm most excited about is
because again, we're not giving up on scripting things out or planning things out or working on stuff over time.
We're going from where
this is an additional tool.
We were taking some what we know from working in journalism of, like, let's go to a restaurant and we'll show you the food that we eat, and we'll tell you a little bit about the food, and we'll do a little bit of looking up on the internet and where did this spice come from, or going from that and, like, what I know about photography and videography and storytelling through sequential art to tell that basic story. We did that, and it wasn't really that fun, but it helped us with all of our skills. It put all those skills together. So now we're actually taking those skills, and we can make that quick sketch and go like, "Here, let's work on the story more." The story, it being, I hate that kid Jason.
Right. Well, and that came from, we actually we're discussing, like, oh, if we were doing this as the vlog, then I would blah blah blah, and I kind
of. And you can speak some Chinese now, so you were talking with the guy, and we're like, do we include that into it if you're going to make it? But I
mean, like, maybe you could tell. I didn't translate any of it for you, but it's like all the same basic small talk conversation I've had with. So it's
and the same ones that I watched.
My insight was, a lot of vlogging is not about, like, look at a new thing you've never seen before, because, like we said, if you've ever watched a travel show about China, you've probably seen them do the ear cleaning thing. It's watch this thing happening to me, and that's where I've I don't personally want to say that ever in my life. Like, my sister had to talk me out of eloping because I didn't want that much attention, even from my friends and family, on our wedding day. And so we had, like, we just invited our immediate families and a couple people. And that was the right choice. We had a happy wedding. But
it was a great wedding.
I'm not, like, slamming anybody who does want to share share themselves with strangers that way, but, like, that feels incredibly uncomfortable to me. So I never want to say, like, but look at it happening to me. And so then, like, what would the story be? Oh, we came up with this different story.
One of the things I can tell right off the bat is, so we came across that we were filming something, then we thought, like, oh, here's an idea to make it a little different. Let's do something weird with it. I took it home and zip, 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 and it was up and it was out. And then I get to the point where, so I'm going to put it on YouTube. What do we call it? And then I can see where the problem is. Our problem is that the most obvious thing that you're going to look for, you're a China vlogger, you want to name it something like American gets ear cleaned, Chinese ear cleaning, foreigner gets ear cleaning, all those things that are obvious, and they all come up immediately like thousands of them, and all of the thumbnails are pictures of people going exactly the same shot that we had. It's just that's you.
So it's a matter of slightly uncomfortable.
So all you do is everyone that has any interest in that is going to type that in, and you're looking at each thumbnail and going, whose face do I like the most that came up first?
Yeah, and I have a beautiful face, but I don't really want to be judged on that.
In the competition of faces with things stuck in their ears.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of faces doing that, and we're not actually telling you. We're not even interested.
Well, that's where we're setting ourselves up for failure, because a title like that is actually misleading, because we're not actually telling you about how to get your ears cleaned.
And
so if that's the information you wanted, you'd be mad that we pulled the rug out under you.
But so we're not interested in telling that story, because there's plenty of other people have told you this is how you get your ears cleaned. It costs about this much, or they'll clean it out this much, and then isn't it weird? And
they don't show you the stuff that comes out, which I
some people might
kind of wanted to see.
But since we knew going into when we were filming it, we don't want to do this. But what we do want to do, what we came across, was a completely different story that was just a joke of like he's digging around so deep in there, what if you could see inside your head?
Yeah.
And then what is inside your head? And you're thinking about this one annoying kid, Jason.
Yeah.
And then we're like, make more jokes about that. And before we knew it, we had a story. And now it's set because we're foreigners on a Saturday afternoon getting ears cleaned. Mm-hmm. That's the setting. Mm-hmm. It's not, hey, people back home, watch a foreigner get their ear cleaned. This is we're not doctors. We don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
But it just now it's the setting, and then what we want to do is tell story.
Look at me, but don't look at me.
But you telling the story in your head, that is something that you've actually thought about. Mm-hmm. Of this annoying kid. You're a teacher, and there's so many students that are great, but every once in a while there's that one that sticks in your mind, and the idea now of the more we talked about it, a guy that's digging in your ear to clean your head out, and what he could see inside is your hatred for this annoying kid that just bothers you every day.
Because everybody who works with children, or everybody who works with people in a service capacity, knows that some people are just annoying. Yeah. You still have to treat them all well. You still have to teach the annoying kids and be fair with them. Mm-hmm. But teachers have kids they don't like. Mm-hmm. It's just true. And,
it's a tough job.
It's because kids are people, and not everybody likes everybody. That's my misanthropic justification for why this is actually a positive video.
There's probably most shows, movies that I can think of where there is a teacher that's a character. Mm-hmm. There's usually some kind of good comedic plot in there of these kids.
Yeah, or AP Bio. It's a whole show about a guy who resents his students because he wishes he was a college professor, not a high school teacher. Mm-hmm. And in fiction, I do think acting out on that is hilarious. Mm-hmm. To be clear, in nonfiction, you should respect children in your care. Just in case there's any confusion about that.
And that actually is something that we do worry about and think about, is because we're kind of in this weird area of, are we making fictional stories where only some people have made it known to us that one of the things is, I don't know if this is satire. I don't know if you people are actually just being vloggers. On multiple pieces that we have, we will get comments of either they think that we're just being flat out honest,
or we pose a facetious quandary in the video and then get real advice in the comments for dealing with it.
And in any event, because it's on YouTube and we're in a foreign country, there's going to be this thought that we're probably just either weird or annoying. The idea that we are, but we're writing it to be deliberately.
Well, and the confusion also, we did start out as a nonfiction
thing,
vlog, whatever.
So
but I kind of think that confusion is, I don't mind that people are confused.
Well, and I think that
postmodernism is decades old.
Yeah,
like,
what we're trying to
our
do.
Our narratives have meta-narratives built in them. Figure it out. That's exciting.
This is what actually is exciting for us, is now we're embracing that and playing with that and not taking it personally if somebody is confused, whether they're upset. I mean, some people are just mad that like, this, you're wrong.
Yeah.
That's fine. Like, I don't have to worry. I'm not going to lose sleep over that.
Yeah.
Whereas then somebody could also just be like, well, that's just dumb. Like, well, it is just dumb. Like, that's fine too.
I'm not going to defend it. It's dumb.
Yeah.
Made me laugh though. I mean, I guess that's my defense. It made me laugh.
And that's the thing, is that we are just doing a thing. What, are we not going to do a thing? Like, how do I live my life? Like, we decided we not saving up to buy a house.
Yeah.
We're not like looking for that career desk job. Like, we've had that. Mm-hmm. We've lived in the big city.
We don't need a college fund for kids we're not going to have.
Right, we're not going to have kids. So like, what we like to do is something other than watch TV, or like
make TV for other people to watch.
Right. So that's how we have fun.
Yeah.
And how other people perceive it is aside from the thing. But we have a lot of discussions about that, of like, I hope no one actually watches this and thinks that you're a really shitty teacher. Like,
yeah, well, and that's why we did like have consideration. We backed away from lines that were like, I hate teaching. Mm-hmm. Or, because I don't want to put out there as a confusing of reality.
Right.
But I'll put out there that I hate.
Well, you could, if this was
you don't know this kid.
If this was a show on like ABC or something like that, you would have notes from the head office that would say, like, you can't say that about, like, your character's a teacher. Or they would say this is a rotten person, and because you're on mainstream TV, you could say that because we have defined. We're in a spot where people are like, I thought these guys were vloggers and teachers, English teachers. They are English teachers. Wait a minute, are they rotten English teachers? They're just like putting it in everyone's face?
Am I going to get fired because of something I put on YouTube? That's the worst thing that happens in the 21st century.
Right.
And I think that's where writing for your character is a more specific parody of actual in this area of China vloggers, and then we have also added like the weirder elements of that. No one is actually sitting around saying like, I need my soft underbelly to be exposed to be a man.
Yeah.
That's like pure us.
Or if you're going to the doctor, bring your own thermos full of blood.
Right.
Don't wait in line.
So there is like, we're working from a template of like influencers that we see that we think are acting in a way that deserves parody, but then we're also still adding this wackiness twist, and people still do confuse if your character is a real person or not.
Yeah.
But I think from a writing point of view, it is like we narrowed down that point of view pretty specifically.
Well, there's somebody that was,
and I feel like we went from parody China vlogs and we're taking it into something weirder. Mm-hmm. Whereas with my character, it is a little, I'm not sure what I want to represent.
Well, because you're still working on it. We had ones...
Because I also think anything we came up with just felt too close to what we were already doing for you.
Yes. Yeah, we don't want to rewrite a different character that is saying the same thing, so... So
I think there's more... And because, like, the joke of that influencer culture is dumb. Mm-hmm. We don't need two of us to do that. So I think through my character, we're kind of
we barely need one to do it.
Some exploratory writing. I mean, we're still exploratory writing with you.
Right.
But we do kind of have that more stable foundation.
Well, now that my character has a voice, now it's in the future, maybe we start being like, well, how did he get that way? Where is he from? Like, that is where that fun kind of filling in the dots later on. But he has a voice of like, he'll do a thing. If you were just to meet this character on the street, this is your first impression of him. We're still trying to figure out that. But there's like, because we've had constantly, just because there's like strange imagery or weird music or something, people that we've gone over this board are like, hey, enough with the drugs.
Right.
And to the point where we even put, it's not coming up now, but like we put a disclaimer in our
description.
of like, don't do drugs, especially if you're coming to China.
Yeah.
And we just got one the other day that was worded the most annoying of like, so drugs are really bad, you know, so lay off them, K, written with K. And so I wrote back with like, before it would have been upsetting.
Yeah.
And then more upsetting, the fact that we had a disclaimer, so I just wrote back of like, oh, so you read through our description, that's great. You know, good job staying clean, alrighty? Like,
yeah.
So I don't have to get pissed about this, and that's not even pissy like that. I'm just, you know, like, okay, alrighty, fine, we're all playing a game, and no one needs to get hurt. This is just the internet, it's just YouTube. Like, no one is, like, you know, me tooing anything about this. Is dumb jokes. We're just making dumb jokes. Yeah. And if you think it's because we're on drugs, well, I mean, we already preempted that with saying we're not.
Yeah.
And whatever, it's just a joke.
Yeah.
So playing with these characters is something that we put a lot of thought into because we want them to be responsible writing.
Yeah. And then also from the other side of production, it's kind of a reverse engineer of what we're learning through writing a pure piece of fiction in the miniseries. Is that like your characters say stuff, but your characters also are doing stuff, and that's where like what was unsatisfying about first person addressing the camera was that something. It felt like something was missing, and what was missing is like an environment in which things are happening, and then I am also talking, and that's where like that's what I think is successful about Jason. I hate you, is that we have a character is doing something and then the thoughts are telling a completely different story, but I'm like existing in the world and the thoughts interact with the world in an appropriate way.
Going
so that there's like an extra layer of richness, and hopefully, and who knows, and I don't care, but maybe that could signal to people like that this is not confessional. This is not a first-person nonfiction piece.
We're not looking for advice. We've actually gone over this many times ourselves to be able to...
Well, even not just what we're looking for, but for them how to read it, is that this is closer to sketch comedy, if you think it's funny, but it's closer to a scene.
Or drama, if you don't.
Yeah, it's closer to a scene than a vlog because it has those two pieces of doing something, saying something.
And I would say that, like, if we were so worried about it, it would be upsetting that no one gets it, but people do get it. We do. There are other people that comment that, like, get that this is some kind of quasi-satire. So it's not like that we're off the mark. It's the same thing as, like, when we're watching whoever our favorite political comedians or something like that, and you're like, how can this group of people look at this person's joke and it just not even gets close to the top of the head, and they're either not willing to go there or their mindset is so completely different that like they are doing nothing but looking at China YouTube and looking for how exactly do you get from step A to step C, and if you don't know, I'm going to fill it in and tell you that you did it wrong, or tell me how. They're looking for some kind of fact, as opposed. Right,
which I'm very incredibly unconcerned with the motivations of people who don't get what we're doing, and it is then nice that there are people who do get what we're doing.
That's the
because the stuff that we like is often stuff that we see comments of like, I don't get it, or like, you know, we've all had the experience of showing something to someone and having them be like, oh, okay, you like that. Like, we don't all like the same stuff. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of people that are here or in any situation or country for a long time. Like, you don't watch or pay attention that much to. I mean, before we moved here, we watched anything Chinese that we could find. Chinese movies, Chinese news, Chinese networks. And, 8 years later, I'm like, oh, here's another foreigner has entered the YouTube world. And I look at their YouTube page and I'm just like, oh, okay, great. With the 8 brains here. And like, it's not even like it's like, this is bad. It's just that like, you're tired of it because you know. But you don't. It's not that you're tired of it. Like, I'm so sick of China and I want to leave. You're like, well, what is the deeper story?
Yeah.
I think that's the excitement of where we're at. Of like, these are stories that are happening to us in China.
Right.
Not describing.
But it's not about China.
Yeah.
Which I think, like, one of the other big ones we did this week, the Money for Goods.
Oh yeah,
the animation, which is almost at 700 views in 1 week, which is gigantic for us. This is based on a true story. I saw on the way home a kid trying to pay for something with a leaf, and I thought it was adorable. And we kind of kicked that around for a couple weeks. That moment, and then you got it in your head. You could animate the scene,
right?
And then one night again, you did.
Well, because we were thinking of like, well, how do we tell that story? Do we put it into a bigger story? Do we?
If I describe it to you, it's not as cute.
Yeah,
because the seeing it is what's cute, and I didn't have my camera, so you can't see the live footage. But we have animation as a tool.
We've talked about the different ways you could tell a story, and one of them is this format here, and you could tell us that story, and it doesn't really have that impact. We could also go hire a kid and a vendor.
Oh yeah, we could stage.
And we could stage the whole thing, and it would be a beautiful shot. And we get out the gimbal, and we could get the soft glow of the afternoon sun and everything like that. But it's not worth all of that trouble because it's a cute story.
Yeah.
It deserves more than just like, hey, saw a funny thing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't deserve enough of like a full production with like, let's get craft services out.
People. Yeah.
So animation was, after thinking about it for a while, like that's the way to go. And as simple as possible. It's only 30 seconds long. It took me longer to write the music than it was and there's no script either, so.
And that you abstracted the people into
wiener people.
Hot dog shapes kind of takes it out of China and makes it more universal.
Yep.
Which is part of realizing, like, in a theoretical sense, that our audience isn't necessarily other people in China or China vloggers, but also practically we do know from who comments. We do have some people in China who comment, but a lot of our loudest supporters are not actually connected to the China vlog world at all. And that's actually, we fancy ourselves comedic writers. That's, we don't want to tell you how to live in China. We want to make you laugh about stuff that happened to us. And that stuff happened to have happened in China.
Yeah.
I think that's where...
It could happen in New York City.
Yeah. So
I can't imagine that no kid ever has tried to pay for an ice cream or whatever.
Right, well, and that's what makes it a cute, relatable story to anybody. Not just like...
Yeah.
We're not saying like, aren't Chinese children so dumb? Or like, communism warps the brains of little kids to think that leaves are currency.
Right.
Or like... a moment with a child and a vendor that was cute that you could see anywhere, and we saw it here. But then that also means for marketing it, much like with Jason, we didn't call it traditional Chinese ear cleaning.
Yeah.
We're not putting China in the title so much anymore because we do want to get
trying to wean that out as best as possible.
A wider audience, and somehow China having the huge population that it doesn't mean it's a big audience.
Yeah.
I mean, because we're in English. Although we do have some Chinese people who watch us too. Hello.
Yeah.
Ni hao. Ni men hao.
Yeah. We people that are even from the town or know the town or have come from the town.
Yeah. We have some Luzhouites.
Yeah.
Luzhou Ren. So yeah, we don't want to limit an audience, but it turned out in our research that putting China at the forefront was actually limiting our audience.
Yeah. Well, because knowing that most of our audience, the people that watch China vlog, they're watching what's going on in Hong Kong, Singapore, Beijing. They're looking for, and that's where they want to move. Because I mean, wherever you're coming from, more than likely, I want to move to the big city. If I'm moving to a big country, that's completely different. I want some place that, I mean, if I was moving from here and I wanted to move to America, I'd want to move to New York City.
And also in English these days, when you say China, people expect a political conversation, and we are trying to be pretty apolitical about what the kinds of stories that we tell. it's all political is personal, but we're trying to tell small, and this is explicitly political, but we are trying to tell small stories that humanize people who may look differently from how you look. That was a tortured sentence. But so we don't have any grand statement to say about politics that that go along with the discussions people want to have about tariffs or extradition or whatever, blah, blah, blah. We'd want no less than for you just to consider the wide world that we all share.
Because, we don't know anything about,
People hate that.
what's going on in rooms in Hong Kong. I don't know what those people are doing. People with money that are discussing.
And I don't have anything useful to add to a public conversation.
Yeah.
My political leanings are that I'm with protesters wherever they are, generally. Not Charlottesville, but you know what I mean.
But where we are actually as people is we're talking to the taxi cab driver.
Yeah.
Once again, where we're from, we're telling them.
Yeah.
And whatever person is at the restaurant or somebody at a store that is actually turns out to be our neighbor, works at the restaurant we just wandered into.
Yeah.
It's just the same story that you had
home. That's if I was a short story writer, I would write the stories about small interactions. I wouldn't write a sweeping saga about political international intrigue. That's not what we're doing.
Just by having China in any of our titles of our video that's what hurts us.
It sets that expectation that you're telling the international political geopolitics saga, and that's misleading because that's not what we're doing.
Yeah.
So that's a funny thing to learn.
There is the other side that is the rural countryside. That is, people want.
I guess that's the other acceptable China topic.
But there isn't a lot of people that are out there doing that.
And we're not doing that. We live in a city of 2 million people.
Yeah, we live in country-adjacent suburbia.
Yeah, we've driven through the countryside.
Yeah, we can see the countryside.
Yeah. But so that's all to say that the expectations that just saying the name of the country we're in actually don't help us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though being in China is significant to us, and part of the story we're telling is some of the experiences we have living in the Chinese culture. But
well, anything that you're doing, the business side is always find your niche.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to say that my niche is music, and my niche in music is pop, hip hop with a slant of trap bass, whatever that hole that you're going down to find, there's still hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people that are doing the same thing, calling them the same stuff. So you're going to have that entrapment of we're a podcast about philosophy. There's other podcasts out there that are philosophy.
Philosophy podcast fans do not think we're a podcast about philosophy.
Yeah. And as much as we're not a podcast about China.
Yeah.
And are we a podcast about art? Well, we talk about it in an abstract philosophical way, but we're certainly not telling you how to use brushes.
Yeah, we're not going into art history very often.
And we also talk about business, but we can't crunch any numbers for you.
Right. Which is,
so don't listen to anything we're saying.
It's always been the case that genre labels, artists, musicians, writers hate them, and no one ever considers their work to be part of a genre. It's more for audiences so that they don't if you go to a bookstore that is not just a random pile of books that you have to look through. You want to see okay, chick lit has a meaning. I want to read some chick lit.
Right. And is there any chick lit that takes place in China? Yeah, it's on that book on that one shelf over there. Oh.
Now I want to read some Chinese chick lit. Oh, it did stop. It did stop at some point. Did the Sony stop?
No, I'm still recording there.
Say noodles to you.
Noodles to you!